Welcome to this fourth film in a series on working with organisation culture. The first film looked at what is culture, how is it formed, why might it be addressed directly. The second looked at how do we actually work with organisations to actually examine cultures and experiment with change. The third film looked at the crucial role of leaders in helping to form culture, but also in supporting and enabling programmes of change. In this last film, we look at our approach at Ashridge, our thinking about organisations, our role and the value that we want to bring to clients in working on organisation culture.
So we think of organisations much more as living social settings, not as machines or as structures. And that's very significant, I think, when we think about the question of change. If we think of them as structures or as machines, change invites us to think about how we're going to dismantle and rebuild this machine. If we think of them as social settings, where sort of understandings and patterns and habits and conventions form, then change takes, is a very different kind of question. And the question that we find most helpful is, how can we create the conditions in which cultures change, in which new ideas emerge, new patterns take form, new values, the organisation configures itself around new principles and new values and new ideas.
Often, if other consultancies might be working with, kind of analysis around strategic questions or designing new IT systems and behind that new processes and systems. Quite often the implementation or the realisation of the benefits that they've identified requires cultural change. It requires, quite simply, people to act and to behave differently within a social system. And that, I think, is Ashridge's niche, to come alongside these other consultancies and help them and help the organisation start to think through, how can you start to involve a critical mass of the organisation in working out how do we change our behaviour, and what are the norms, the values and the underlying assumptions that lie beneath our existing ways of behaving and relating to each other, and therefore through raising their awareness we can help them to change and to start to shift behavioural patterns. It's not easy, it takes time, and it needs to be engaged with a lot earlier than a lot of organisations tend to do.
Andrew, what key principles inform our approach to working with clients on change?
Well, I think one, we're starting with an assumption of start where you are. Don't start by looking to developing some grand vision about what you would love the organisation to be, and lose connection with actually what is happening now. The other fundamental assumption that informs how we work is that change happens once we become more aware of how we participate within organisation dynamics.
What is our role as consultants in working with clients on cultural change?
I suppose one of the things we're trying to do when we're deliberately trying to impact on culture is to work out what kind of disturbance might pattern itself out to a more systemic or widespread shift in behaviour.
In a way, the image that comes to me is that we are like Sherpas. We are kind of companions that have been there before. So we have a sense of what the journey looks like, although it's like each journey is different. We find a new path together every time, but we're Sherpas. We have been through this before. So we know that it's going to get turbulent, we know it's going to get rough, but we're also there to ensure the safety and help people through some of the difficult stuff. Another role we play is that I think we bring experience and ability to design and facilitate processes that support this. For example, helping people surface and pay attention to what their cultural patterns are. We know how to do that, and I think that's a value that we add. We also know how to create settings in which people can start to talk to each other about these things. Often in organisations, there's a lot of anxiety about talking across power levels and different boundaries. So a lot of our work is about designing processes, designing events, creating the conditions in which people feel safe enough to really to talk to each other about some of these things.
There's two things we bring. The first one is just simply we bring difference. By coming alongside and hanging out in the ordinary, we can spot what other people have become completely immune and blind to. And we can help that. I think the second thing we can do is that obviously, you know, we do deep research, we do think about these things, so we do bring some expertise in the particular little things that you can poke that have the potential for bigger shifts.
So the nature of my role, you might say, is partially a coaching role. It's a noticing role. It's a provocateur. You know, it's a holding up the mirror. You know, I might stop the action. I might say, well, what's going on here? It's also about bringing new possibilities.
I think where we're different from almost, you know, the vast majority of consultancies in this space is, first of all, we really partner with our clients. Our intention is to work with our clients to help them achieve their goals and find out ways of bringing about change that will work within their culture. So we don't come in with a fixed methodology that we take off the shelf and say, if you do X, Y, and Z, then you'll get the results that you want. What we recognise is that every client's culture is unique, and therefore any change process needs to be tailored and adapted to meet the particular culture that we're working with. So I think that is a unique aspect of our practice. And I think the other value that really informs how we work is that we try to build our clients' capability to be able to develop themselves once we've finished working with them. What we do is fundamentally informed by a significant body of research about what works in organisations.
We hope you've enjoyed this series of 4 films, and we would particularly welcome any comments or any feedback that you want to give us, so don't hesitate to make contact with us at Ashridge. Thanks for watching.